All right, today let's talk about Grass Kings. Let's dive right in. All right, welcome to Grass Kings. This is me and Tyler's first collaboration. And this book, the origins of this book were Tyler had an idea for a group of people that had just gone off the grid and sort of wanted to live in the middle of nowhere on their own. With their own rules and just be left alone. And then he had an idea for two brothers, and maybe one of the brothers' wives goes missing or leaves him. And he had a bunch of notes and different character ideas. And he came to me, and he wanted to. He was having trouble sort of figuring out how to make it as what the series was going to be or what this big story was going to be. And initially, I was like, well, just I'll give you notes or ideas if you want me to help you. But he really wanted me to just collaborate and let me write it. So the very first thing I did is add a murder. I said this thing needs a murder, and then we sort of went from there. But I was hesitant at first because it not being my original idea from the beginning, I felt bad taking something of his and then changing it so much. But to Tyler's credit, he was open to ideas and he really just wanted to come up with a fun story. And he wanted to work with me. And I love his art. And so once I got over that hump of being concerned that he was going to be mad if I changed his story or did something with his characters, and I just decided to not care about his feelings regarding that. Then we sort of had a breakthrough, and I figured out a way to sort of add a murder and then maybe a serial killer and a bunch of other stuff. So that's how we started. We had a bunch of preliminary art. I don't really remember what I saw first. I own this piece. I love this. There's more to it. I just love the color and the drawing of the trees. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tyler was drawing and painting his own stuff, and then partway through the series, Hillary took over painting. We'll see if I can tell when, but she's so good that I actually kind of like it better. I hate to say that. Tyler knows that, but it's great. But that gave Tyler more room and time to work on the drawings and free him up. And it's just fun to see them work together. Here we go. It's the beginning of time. I wanted to show this land. The whole theme of this too is the idea of owning land is so ridiculous. I wanted to sort of have a book like this be about that. How do you own land? You can't own it, you occupy it. So it really was important for me to show the beginning of this land that these people are squatting on, and people that lived here and all the violence around it, and the things that happened on this land over time. And so we, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1900s, present day. So it really was important for me to show that. Again, I was also inspired by R. Crumb has a great print that he did that just shows a field and then suburbs growing up in it over time. This is inspirational. Here we go. A big overview. I love this shot because, especially this opening scene, I wanted to introduce the concept, the characters, and then this place. And so the best way to do that is for this kid to get arrested, and then he gets sort of driven around through town. And so we get to see everything. And in a way, we kind of get a map of the entire place. So we meet all the characters, this guy with an airplane, a lot of people with guns. And he just sort of talks to all the townspeople. This is our intro. You have this sort of mystery writer who's working on his novel here. I love these washes and the big overview. Tyler did such a good job of, these are can be boring panels. It really is. Like, if you think about it, these panels are just a car driving around sort of in semi-wilderness. But because of his watercolor use and the lines, it really just gives it energy, makes it come alive. It really feels like you're in a place and time. These great little washes, the wet on wet. It's great. And these characters, we had a lot of fun developing these guys and knowing that they're going to come into play later. And then small things like stepping over a mailbox with a nest in it to sort of get the psychology of the characters. Really, the place and the setting of this and the houses and the atmosphere was super important in sort of showing the character's psychology and where they're at. So sort of the rundown, sort of lonely panels. And then Tyler's art, this is great. Flashing back to earlier days. We get some of his backstory in these great, really loose, amazing ink drawings with wash on them. And the time passing. And again, his use of paint here, so great. There's not a lot of books that look like this. And then there's the neighboring town. And this is, of course, is the villain. We see him on the last page. And this was a series of variant covers that I did. I'm gonna see if I can go through and find each one, because they worked as a series. I felt like they weren't very strong covers on their own, but I think when you see them all together, they work. They sort of tell the story I wanted to tell. So let's see if I can find them all here. 2, 3, 4. Probably should have. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, again, that opening scene, I just wanted to show the same land and the violence, or what's happened, the violence it's having on it, and then the changing of seasons too. So it's almost like a children's book outline, the murder, and then another one back in 100 years later, then another 100 years. There's people fighting over the same little patch of land. This moonshiner getting choked out. And finally, present day, which is what happens. And you can see that the seasons change too. We go from fall, spring, winter. Anyway, so that's my series of covers I did. My art contribution. More of, boy, Kyle's, the way you use just this thin color and the washes is so great. I mean, there's no other way to do that except with the watercolor like he did. It just gave this a look to this book that's so unique. There's nothing really like it. And I love working with Tyler. We can do a bunch of like small panels, storytelling panels, and then have a lot of dense action and complex things happening, and then he can really just open it up. Like, look at the way he blends the establishing shot into this tree house. It's a boat. This great old car, rusty car. It just, you can sort of feel the atmosphere here. There's a lot of dialogue here with these teenage kids talking back and forth. And then here we go. Some more great washes. I love these silent panels. These just establishing panels. They work so great. So we like a softer palette as he moves inside. So neat. And then some flashback. I love he just uses these hollow lines and these real big splashy bits of color. As we sort of see their relationship falling apart. seeing the backstory. And again, these big panels with the way he uses the color, and then we get to see her sort of awake, staring at the moon. And then I love this ending sequence where he gets hit, and then we just see the beer breaking open on the ground, and then sort of blood seeping into it. Can't remember whose idea that was. I think it's the best collaborations to me are like that. We're working with Tyler. Like, I don't know, we talk about the story and we sort of figure it out, and then a lot of this, I don't remember where he ends and I begin. And we have a great opening scene, cold open on like a moon shining flashback, big old car chase. I think Tyler wanted to draw some 1920s stuff. So we have a great big shootout to start the thing. And some moonshine. And it's great. Man, these little panels in between, and the way he'll just like bleed the color off, no panel border here, and these other panels, it just works. And then here we go. This is a great sequence too, where he's just using the color and the washes to sort of indicate the panels. So 1, 2, 3 panels there, no panel borders. So cool. And then his ink, man, Tyler just has such a way of like look in just within his jacket. It's so hard to get that look that looks like it's done really quickly and carelessly, but then also very, very much everything is in the place it needs to be. And I love his expression there. So you realize that something's going on, a little bit of violence. And then I love sound effects on the page, drawn by the artist. Bang, 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 more down there. Just more great washes, just setting the scene and the tone, some nice flashbacks. And I like with the flashbacks that he's inking it lighter too. It's mostly just outlines, not just the color shift. And it's great, the change of scene, the place and time, the shift from these cool dark colors, and then this really hot, warm orange light. That's great. And then these birds, this isn't going to be good. Whatever these birds are descending on, whatever they're eating. And then look at these heavy lines. Man, it just makes it so intense. Like to go from that, you go inside there, and those big, heavy ink lines. So great. I mean, those are the thickest lines in the entire book. But it really makes them pop out. Gives that last page some impact. Here we go. Some more flashback. One of the challenges with this book was to make it visually interesting. You have characters that are basically living in grasslands by a lake. And so to come up with different ways of telling the story, different parts of the story that would be interesting to draw and to look at. So I just started thinking about the history of that and having these old planes and having a guy in present day fixing one up. I love this big silent shot. I mean, that could be like a print on its own. Just really sets the mood. Like as a writer, when you get panels and art like this, it just, it carries everything. I'm in charge of the plot here and the dialogue and everything, but when somebody can knock out a panel like that, it just elevates it. We have the guys and the big city guys fighting. More fun flashbacks. I love these layouts. It's just so loose seeming, but it tells a story and drags your eye across the page. This blood from the crime scene. again, and this is setting something up that will happen like 2 books later. There's this serial killer thing that's happening sort of in the background that we set up really early with a mystery. But then look, the way he carries that blood over into this and then their clothes. It's so smart. That's what the best collaborations is. There's no barrier between the art and the writing. You know, any idea that like a writer is more important or the art is more important, it's just you can't separate them in comics. That's why, to me, a collaboration like this is so valuable, is because it's no different than if I was drawing it. You know, we're just on the same page on everything. There's no disconnect between the words and the pictures. And again, we keep doing this too with the silent panel to sort of change scenes, sort of set up the new thing. So first panel, if we're switching scenes in the middle of a spread, having that silent panel helps. We do that a few times. Here we do it again. It's like the big guns are coming out. There we go. Flashback to the 50s. Some biker gangs getting beat up by the cops. And this blood sort of seeping through the soil. And the history. And then just the idea of all that blood and violence just being soaked into that dirt that they're in. And then back to a shootout. I love these sound effects drawn on there as the bullets hit the welcome sign. Big shootout. We have to have one big action finale for this first book. And then horses. I don't like writing horses for artists unless they want it. But Tyler did a good job. Horses are hard to draw. This is the guy we saw earlier. We set him up in issue 1. And then, man, I just love the way he put these trees and the horse together. And again, this is another sequence where I thought, you know, it's so grounded. But I would like the idea of him having lost a child and sort of viewing some of what he's doing now through the eyes of a children's book or theory and legend. To sort of elevate the premise and the idea. And just to give Tyler some more fun stuff to draw, you know, rather than just some people in the rocks shooting at each other. Getting great sound effects incorporated into the art. Can you imagine if this was just computer lettered, how much it would just be jarring next to his line art? Big boom. It's so great. More great stuff. And so we see this dragon sort of parallels this plane and what it's about to drop, which is a big bomb. Small spoiler, but a bomb gets dropped. God, this is so great. I haven't seen these pages in so long, but these big washes with wet on wet and the way the color, and then this is one of the best spreads. It's so great. But yeah, again, it's one of those things where writing this book, I'm like, as an artist, I know, hey, if I just had to draw a plane for a bunch of pages in a row, I'm trying to think of a better way to draw or something more interesting to draw. So that sort of drove some of the story too, is just, you know, how can we make this visually interesting? That was a lot of it. This came from wanting some visual ideas. It's great sound effects. Really, and then the way he places the sound effects too, and the color just helps tell the story, show the action. And I feel like Tyler's inks over even just this first book, they get so much more confident, you know. spotting more blacks, the black under this hat as he's holding it. Revisiting these small touches with the nest inside the mailbox. Again, silent panels to start the panel, to start the next scene, next page. This is so good. These really light flashbacks. And then kind of a bittersweet end of the first book. And then the fixing of the mailbox, which is something we set up in issue 1. And he puts it all back together. Sort of, again, with the house and the atmosphere of the book, sort of showing you the psychology of the characters. It's a prime example of what we were doing. Then you have the bad guys. So we have to set up, of course, book 2 and what's coming, which is going to be a bigger fight. And set up some more characters. We have the twins with the radio. With the radios, some of my favorite characters. And then this great houseboat, tree house, with the kids. And then the burn barrel with some books in it, which is where a lot of the Arthurian legend visuals came from the kids. And here we go. This is the last one I did in that series, which was Snow. Sort of the end, the sort of ending of the violence. Some more great variant covers. Got lucky with having a lot of good ones. I had fun doing a bunch of pulp covers. Just like straight up doing this pulp. This is great. That's one of my favorites. Really good ones. This is great too, tying into that Arthurian stuff. Got made for some good covers too. All right, process illustrations. Man, it's great. I know that Tyler and I both love Klaus Janson. And I'm seeing this inked figure here, and you can 100% see the influence / inspiration. Love it. Klaus is a legend. All right. That's it. That's Grass Kings. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave some comments in the comments below.